Democracy is not given once and for all. We are living in a time of crisis for democracy, but there are ways to not only solve this crisis, but even bring about incredible democratic development. We just need to have an idea for it. With such an idea formed from thoughts, conversations, readings, and observations, I come to you today. Whether you like my proposal, you can judge for yourself. In a nutshell, the pace of modern technology development is very fast. I myself experience it every day working as a C#.NET software developer. I am not a politician, and at the same time I think the role of politicians is too big in governing the country. We should strive for a model where citizens can actually be heard, and modern technologies are able to definitely help with this. I am not aiming for a cyber utopia. Technologies are only an auxiliary element for society. However, used well, they can contribute to greater citizen participation in state governance. We have measures, such as the Citizens' Legislative Initiative. Such initiatives have often landed in the so-called parliamentary freezer. They are often created in a narrow circle, and you can at most sign for them. Moreover, the process of collecting signatures is cumbersome, because it is only possible on paper, unlike, for example, the European Citizens' Initiative, which can also be supported electronically, in addition to the collection of traditional signatures. At the same time, the idea of a citizens' legislative initiative is amazing in itself and breaks the patterns of representative democracy. In a representative democracy, we are governed by elected politicians, while in a direct democracy, it is the citizens who decide directly. The very fact that we can propose a new law, collectively sign on to it, and push for its passage is very important. However, this process needs to be improved and expanded so that it functions properly. That is, it does not end with the effective collection of signatures and the politicians forgetting about an idea. Moreover, some such initiatives have little to do with grassroots action, but are organized by activists affiliated with parties or widely promoted by mass parties. It is also important to note that different citizen initiatives can conflict with each other on key issues. There are ways to take advantage of the tools of direct democracy and effectively approach the subject of conflict, which exists when different people or groups of people have radically different opinions on an issue. How to do this? I will tell you soon. But now I would like to present the key points of my proposal. This is not an election program because I am not a politician. It is the program of a foundation that I founded and of which I am president. We can associate foundations both well, because many of them work directly for the underprivileged, and badly, if only because of the questionable ways in which some of them are financed and operate. This is especially true for those that have democracy on their lips. The foundation is called the Future Democracy Foundation. So will it share the fate of foundations that officially promote democracy, but de facto serve the partisan goals of political parties or are closely tied to them? It depends on who gets involved and what the sources of funding are. I would love to see a program board at the foundation. If you are interested in taking matters into your own hands and share the values of the foundation, I encourage you to contact me. On the other hand, the financial aspect remains. I make no secret of the fact that the vast majority of the funds raised by the foundation came from my own savings, that is, the effect of gainful employment. Ultimately, however, this model is not sustainable, and additional sources of income, as independent of politicians and political parties as possible, are needed. However, I was to list the key points of my proposal. These are direct democracy, digital democracy, and elements of technocracy. It boils down to making sure that citizens have a direct impact on lawmaking processes and everyone's voice is actually heard. Digital democracy points to the need to use digital tools, such as the internet and artificial intelligence, the further development of which will not and should not stop, at most regulate wisely. Finally, there are elements of technocracy, or a government of experts. There are issues that are very complex, such as banking regulation or cybersecurity. We should use competencies of experts to help us as a society make the right decisions, while not taking away the freedom of citizens to choose what kind of country we want to live in. I am not the first person to propose these three elements, but perhaps the way they are implemented and interrelated is unique. Direct democracy was tested as far back as antiquity and closer to our time in Switzerland. It was in this federal state that the need to reconcile a very diverse group of people led to the widespread use of such tools as the referendum and the people's initiative. Moreover, one of the cornerstones of Swiss democracy is the principle of subsidiarity. In a nutshell, power should be as close as possible to the people, who can exercise it independently. Such a thought also guides, to a large extent, the authors of the book Let's Make a Deal for Poland. I had the opportunity to listen to the debate that took place in Łódź, with the participation of some of the creators of this publication. As we can read on the official website, like never before, Poland needs a new social contract. The vision that authors present is for greater involvement of provincial and municipal governments in the mechanism of governing the country. Indeed, increasing the competence of local communities is a good idea. I warmly wish success to the creators of this project. I believe that if it can be implemented, it can greatly help our country and its citizens. The Foundation's idea, however, is different. It does not contradict the idea of the creators of Let's Make a Deal for Poland. On the contrary, the two ideas complement each other well, emphasizing other aspects of democracy. In the case of the Future Democracy Foundation, these include direct democracy, digital democracy, and elements of technocracy, while in the case of the authors of Let's Make a Deal for Poland, among others, the principle of subsidiarity. However, I strayed a bit from the topic. I mentioned that these three elements, the coexistence of which can contribute to fairer laws, were not discovered by me. Direct democracy existed in Athens, while today its best example is Switzerland. There remains the question of digital democracy and elements of technocracy. Digital or electronic democracy is best explained using Estonia as an example. This small country in northern Europe, bordering Latvia, Finland, and Russia, regained its independence in 1991, having previously been under the occupation of the USSR. The Estonians had to largely create legislation from scratch, and they approached the subject in a very creative way. They placed great emphasis on IT tools in the democratic process from an early age. Today, it is one of the most computerized countries in the world. It is interesting to note that in 2019, almost 44% of voters cast their vote in the national parliamentary elections online. Internet voting is a very interesting solution, but it does not solve the pressing problems of democracy. What can solve them to a greater extent is the so-called Rachvalgatus. This is a digital platform that allows citizens to create and discuss initiatives, garner support, and submit proposals for official consideration. It is the existence of such digital solutions, making it easier for citizens to express their opinions in a way that can actually be heard, and I believe is the key to building a strong democracy. That leaves the third part of the proposal, the technocracy elements. It may seem unusual that just such a third element is proposed by the Future Democracy Foundation. However, if you think about it carefully, some of the issues that the state has to deal with in a rapidly developing world are very complicated and require specialized knowledge. I mentioned banking and cybersecurity earlier as examples. The voice of experts should be heard well, but who is an expert? This was one of the questions that volunteers from the Future Democracy Foundation asked respondents during the research I conducted with them. If you are interested in the respondents' answers, I encourage you to read our first research report, available on the Foundation's website. It is not so obvious who to consider an expert. Moreover, we have often had to deal with politicians citing only the opinions of those people they considered experts, discrediting those experts who disagreed with their opinion. This is not an easy topic, but here too we can find an example of a country where the knowledge of experts have enabled very dynamic economic growth. Singapore gained full independence in 1965 in a rather unusual way. It began with Malaysia not wanting Singapore, on the assumption that it would be an obstacle to its development. Over the course of several decades, this city-state developed from a poor region into one of the financial centers of the world. Undoubtedly, contributing to this was the first Prime Minister, whose approach was very meritocratic, that is, important positions in the state were dependent on competence. So we can see that the very dynamic economic development is possible thanks to the interaction of experts. I believe that the proper use of the potential of experts can contribute to building an effective and developed economy. However, the voice of experts cannot be made an oracle, because in such a situation, the voice of citizens would be marginalized. Experts should be included in the discussion in a special way, but it is the general public who should decide what kind of country they want to live in. And indeed, the focus mainly on technocratic elements without due consideration for civil liberties results in Singapore being considered a flawed democracy. These are the conclusions drawn from a reading of the best known democracy index, published by a research unit affiliated with The Economist. I mentioned the three pillars of modern democracy and examples of countries where these three pillars are already being used. What else will you have the opportunity to hear about? I'd like to say a few words about myself so that I'm not an anonymous person from the internet, and about the values that guide the foundation and what we've done so far. I'm also going to explain what the foundation's future plans are and talk about our vision for the democracy of the future and what is needed to make the vision a reality. But before I do that, I would like to answer the key question: what is it all for? You can say that democracy is an important issue, and indeed it is. The problem, however, is the law, which should be fair and often is not. A law that should be logical and consistent, and it is not uncommon for lawyers themselves to point out serious problems with it. A law that should reflect the will of the people, not mass party leaders who make election promises during the campaign and later fail to fulfill them. Finally, a law that allows people to live in such a state, in such a way that they feel safe and can develop their potential in harmony with other people. Imagine noticing a legal absurdity. There are many of them. Just type the phrase legal absurdities into an internet search engine and you will come across a long list of such failures of the rule of law. Wouldn't it be good to be able to report such an absurdity, discuss it with citizens, find a solution together, and effectively bring about a better solution in law? You can also approach the subject in a different way. Suppose you have an idea for a great initiative that will improve your situation and the situation of many others in an aspect that is important to you. Now, at most, you can discuss the topic with your family and friends, or if you have a lot of perseverance, seek support among politicians who probably won't even want to listen to you or will nod and forget about the topic. Or you can start down the arduous path of a citizen legislative initiative. And if you manage to collect 100,000 signatures, submit a legislative initiative to the parliament, which probably won't do anything about it. There are other avenues now available. You can start a group on social media and try to encourage your friends to your cause, hoping to get so many people interested by the snowball method that it will lead to a movement that will be heard. And at the same time, in doing so, take advantage of portals whose goal is not your well being, but to make you addicted to an endlessly scrolling content, obtaining your personal information to target advertisements, and provide funds to profit driven corporations at any cost. However, there is another way. That way is to gradually transform democracy to meet the needs and challenges of the modern world. Thus, not revolution but evolution. Although the effects of such evolution, even more so if it happens quickly, may exceed our expectations. Any such evolution consists of small steps that add up to the creation of something entirely new. And this new thing can be a turning point, contributing to our well being and greater harmony in society. I'll be happy to talk about what the small steps are and what the milestones on our path might be in a moment. I promised, however, that before explaining what the Foundation's plans are, I would tell you briefly about myself. I was born and lived in Pyskowice, a small town in southern Poland in Silesia province, Gliwice district. It is one of the oldest cities in Upper Silesia. I completed my engineering and master's studies at the Silesian University of Technology in Gliwice. Immediately after receiving my diploma from engineering studies, I started working as a C#.NET software developer. C# is a high-level programming language, while .NET is a programming platform. I lived in London for a while, where I also did software development. Currently, in 2024, I live in Wrocław, Poland. I have reflected many times on topics concerning our place in society, At some point, I realized how much depends on the so called social contract, that is, what we collectively agree to as a society. Later, the thought dawned on me that by changing the way this social contract is created, many of the problems plaguing us can be solved. Added to this was the observation of reality, that is, how many of these imperfections are due to not so much to the bad will of people, but rather to a pathologically functioning system. Although, of course, individuals with eminently harmful intentions also play a large role in changing the world for the worse. Let me now make a philosophical digression. There are two sources of external problems. One is natural causes, such as earthquakes or disease, and the other is human activity, which can build a better world but also destroy it. For all intents and purposes, human activity can also be categorized as a natural cause, since humans are part of nature. However, it is worth singling out human activity, since it is only our species that is characterized by the creation of developed culture and technology on Earth. As Erich Fromm put it, man is afraid of freedom and therefore runs away from it. However, we must realize that our future depends on our decisions and our action or lack of thereof. We can sit back and do nothing, but then let's not be surprised that reality does not look the way we would like it to. Instead of running away from freedom, letting powerful individuals make decisions for us, let's take matters into our own hands. All the more so because there are more people who think similarly about the world and see hope for our democracy. Here I can mention, for example, the volunteers of the Future Democracy Foundation and the companies that have decided to support us in our activities. Enough of this digression. I would now like to move on to the next topic, which is to talk about the values of the foundation and its past activities. One can talk a lot about values, but it is the deeds that prove which values one really lives by. The beginnings of the foundation date back to the time when I was a post-diploma student of user experience research and design, wanting to expand my knowledge also in other subjects than just programming. There I met a group of people with whom I worked well and to whom I told about my idea for the foundation. One of those people was Krzysztof, who became a member of the foundation's board and served in that capacity for quite some time. He later decided to continue his education and therefore decided to resign from this position, but we have been in touch ever since. It was together with Krzysztof, a philosopher by education, that we prepared the preamble to the statute, which describes our values. Its formulation took us a long time because we wanted to convey in a clear and understandable way what motivates us to act. We will find there an explanation of what freedom and justice are to us, as well as in more details what we think about animal rights, the protection of nature, education, or privacy. We did not want to impose our worldview, so, for example, we invoked the promotion of rational and substantiative discussion and decision making in accordance with one's conscience. Some worldview issues cause fierce dispute. Although we both have our own view on these issues, we came out with the assumption that dialogue is needed first and foremost. Otherwise, it comes to a situation where extreme approaches cause resentment and destroy people's trust in each other. I've already said a lot about our motivation. It's high time to get down to the specifics. One of the foundation's first activities was to recruit volunteers, willing to devote their time and effort to democracy. We started from the assumption that research was needed so that our activities would respond to the real needs of the people and not be based only on our unverified assumptions. And the best ideas are born in cooperation with others. At this point, I would like to warmly thank to the volunteers for their help in conducting the surveys and preparing their reports. I would especially like to mention here Eva, Dorota, Agnieszka, Anna, Maria, and Katarzyna. It was thanks to their valuable support that we had the opportunity to talk to the respondents in user experience research. So what was the research process like and what did it involve? First of all, we had to commission the recruitment of the people with whom we conducted the research. To do this, we prepared a screener, that is preliminary questions for the respondents, as well as defined what characteristics the study group should have. The first survey, called Active Citizens, included people who were interested in national and world events and used the internet and a smartphone. Half were men and half were women. Moreover, there were people from different age groups. The second survey, titled Creators of Initiatives, was conducted with people who initiated or were among the main organizers of an initiative at the Polish or European Union level. It was not such a simple task to get these people for the study, since the group is not large. After all, not everybody gets 100,000 signatures in Poland or attempts to do so. Finally, the third study, titled Law Research Report, was based on our interviews with 6 law students and 2 lawyers. We asked questions about topics such as making and understanding the law, sources of knowledge about the law, civil society, and digital solutions. As part of each study, we prepared an interview script, while the interviews themselves were recorded with the consent of the subjects. We had to ask questions in an appropriate manner so as not to suggest answers to the subjects. We then prepared extensive reports based on the recordings, which also included summaries with conclusions on the last few pages. All 3 reports are available on our website. This research has helped us to more precisely define the problems and possible ways to solve them, so that the Foundation's activities are not just the fantasy of the creators, but are rooted in real needs. We were able to verify the initial assumption, which was that citizens would be willing to participate in direct democracy using digital tools. At the end of the interviews, during the first survey, we asked how respondents would like to be able to engage in changes to the law at the national level, even before we presented them with a proposal of our portal. 3 of 8 respondents independently suggested the creation of such a digital tool, although at this point in the conversation we had not yet mentioned our plans for it. So we conducted research, realizing that the creation of a nationwide portal to support direct democracy processes is a very big challenge. We also looked for another solution that would help us promote the Foundation's activities, as well as have a real and positive impact on the quality of democracy in Poland. At this point, the incubation process of the Sector 3.0 Fund grant program came to our aid. As we can read on their website, Sector 3.0 is an initiative of the Polish-American Freedom Foundation that supports digital transformation and the use of new technologies, especially in socially useful activities. We managed to qualify for the program, which gave us the opportunity to verify and refine our ideas over several months. It was through Sector 3.0 that we decided that our first activity would be the Explain the Law portal. Initially, we thought to involve lawyers and/or law students in this activity and explain the law with their help, but life writes its own script. We looked for people to implement this application with the help of the Tech to the Rescue organization, and after some time I received an invitation to an extremely interesting event. This was the Hack to the Rescue Hackathon, arguably the largest event of its kind in the world. It consisted of technology companies competing to prepare solutions using artificial intelligence to address the problems of NGOs from different countries. We, too, took part in this event, which took place on June 14th and 15th, 2023. At the beginning, we were tasked with making a presentation of our need, namely the creation of the Explain the Law portal, in which I and our volunteer Anna took part. After presenting the problem we want to address, the companies had about 24 hours to prepare solutions. 5 companies signed up for our project, and we would like to thank them warmly for their time and effort in preparing the software. The hackathon itself ended with the presentation of solutions and the selection of the winning one from among these submitted. The first place was awarded to a software company Divinity from Wrocław, which soon started working on the final version of the application. Also involved was front-end developer Robert, whose task is to prepare the browser part for end users. This amazing hackathon time resulted in a collaboration that is still ongoing. The process of developing the solution is nearing completion, and I am confident that the official launch of the Explain the Law portal will take place in the coming months. As part of it, artificial intelligence will explain the law published in the Journal of Laws, in the form of questions and answers written in simple Polish and understandable to those unfamiliar with reading legal text. Once again, sincere thanks and due to the people involved in the project, as well as to the company's board of directors, which gave its permission for further work, and to the organizers of a Hack to the Rescue hackathon. However, these are not all the activities of the foundation. What is probably most important to you is how these activities contribute or will contribute to the development of democracy in Poland. I believe that 2024 will be a landmark year for the Foundation's activities, due precisely to the launch of the two projects. One of them I mentioned is the Explain the Law portal. There remains a second flagship project that we are working on. At the beginning of the year, the Future Democracy Foundation established a partnership with the Foundation for European Initiatives in Silesia. FACE is decided to supporting youth in the areas of volunteerism, civil society building and non-formal education through local and international activities. It is accredited with Erasmus Plus Youth and engaged in carefully planned projects in a long-term strategy for youth in Silesia. It is good to use those tools that already exist and have been tried in many other places. Such a tool, or rather a comprehensive solution, is Decidim. Decidim is a digital platform for citizen participation, giving access to functionalities such as proposal submission, meetings, voting, collaborative document creation, conferences, or surveys. It was first launched in Barcelona in February 2016, but was made available under a free license, allowing other entities to implement it in their own countries. We would like to install and use the Decidim portal in Poland, first to support youth city councils and eventually for the general public in Poland. Let's imagine such a scenario that some topic is particularly important to us. Wouldn't it be great to be able to present it, discuss it with citizens, experts and politicians, then enlist the help of lawyers to draft a legal text, put it to a vote on a portal, and then in an official state referendum? Such a scenario would be, in my opinion, an ideal use of direct democracy, digital democracy, and elements of technocracy. It is feasible, and for this we need to launch the Decidim portal. I mentioned that I would like to explain what the Foundation's future plans are and talk about our vision for the democracy of the future, and what is needed to make this vision a reality. I will now briefly mention what the Foundation needs. It boils down to two things. First, we need people willing to get involved in our work. At this stage, there are volunteers who have done user experience research and design work for us. Secondly, it is the Tech to the Rescue organization, which is dedicated to connecting NGOs with technology companies. Finally, it's the companies that have decided to help us, primarily in the areas of artificial intelligence and Python, Amazon Web Services, cloud computing, and Ruby on Rails, the framework for rapid web application development that was used by the developers of Decidim. There are also other volunteers, namely graphic designers Adam and Łukasz, user interface designer Anna, front-end developer Robert, and UX writer Agnieszka. Finally, our partner organization, Foundation for European Initiatives in Silesia. So quite a few people have been involved in the Foundation's work so far, and I believe that thanks to their work, this year will prove to be a breakthrough for the Foundation due to the plans to launch both of our solutions. However, people's involvement should not stop here. I would very much like to see a program council in the Foundation to support our activities in a substantive way. I am looking for people willing to devote their time to provide advice and assistance, and at the same time shape the future of the Foundation in such a way that it never embezzles from its values. So they must be people who share our values and who see the need to adapt democracy to the realities of modern times. If you think you are such a person, I encourage you to contact me. The second need of the Foundation, which probably comes at no surprise to anyone, is a steady source of revenue. Our activities require financial outlays, for example, for the use of an artificial intelligence API that will allow the Explain the Law project to grow. What's more, just maintaining both applications on cloud computing requires financial outlays, although these have been largely covered by Amazon support for NGOs. However, if you would like to see a nationwide version of the Decidim portal, more volunteers and funding are definitely needed. You can express your support for the Foundation by choosing one-time or recurring payments, using the donation plugin on our website, or by paying directly to the account number provided. Of course, any such support is voluntary and serves to pay for the various costs incurred by the foundation, including the administrative ones that are necessary to operate legally and efficiently. So, I talked about the foundation's plans and its needs. The last topic I would like to touch on is the foundation's broad vision. The emergence of these two digital solutions is not an end to it in itself, but it is intended to build a better Poland. One can wonder what democracy will look like many years from now, given the dynamic changes in technology and society. I like Parag Khanna's term, who called the system of the future a direct technocracy. The use of direct democracy and elements of technocracy is certainly an interesting solution. However, I am very interested in how we will be able to use artificial intelligence in democratic processes. We are clearly seeing its rapid development, as exemplified by the ChatGPT models. This is a chatbot developed by OpenAI that generates responses to user input. Although it provides elaborate answers even to complex queries, it is not without flaws. One of these is so-called AI hallucinations, or the generation of false answers. For example, when asked to create a business presentation on the latest developments in virtual or augmented reality, so-called VR and AR, ChatGPT may describe a product that does not even exist in the conceptual stage and has never entered the market. On the other hand, artificial intelligence chatbots are already solving time-consuming and difficult tasks for us, as long as we know how to use them properly and are critical of the answers they generate. As I mentioned, one way to use artificial intelligence in strengthening democracy is the Explain the Law project. However, it doesn't have to stop there. Imagine a futuristic vision in which any citizen can talk to a chatbot, whether by text or voice conversation with a virtual avatar. Such artificial intelligence then processes the information provided and, based on it, represents the citizen before lawmakers. In this way, everyone is also represented directly in the case of complex legal issues. Would such a scenario be good and would we want it to come true? Probably the time will come anyway. It's up to us how we use the further development of modern technology to strengthen democracy and whether we turn to authoritarianism at all, which of course I would like us to avoid. As of yet, we do not have a strong artificial intelligence or artificial general intelligence. As we can read on Wikipedia, this is the assumption that some form of artificial intelligence can possess all the attributes available to the human mind. We don't know when this will become possible, or if it will happen at all. The CEO of NVIDIA, a pioneer in artificial intelligence technology, said in 2023 that it is possible within 5 years. Regardless of when it happens, we need to keep up to date with changes in technology and adapt to them. I believe that the wise use of artificial intelligence can help improve democracy. Imagine that people propose their ideas for changes in the law, and artificial intelligence helps verify that they are in line with existing legislation, especially in the context of human rights or international regulations and values close to the society in question. Or it analyzes lists of legal absurdities and proposes changes to eliminate them. However, democratic processes cannot take place only with digital tools. Direct participation of people is needed, for example, in the form of protests or meetings. I would like the activities of the Decidim portal to be an element that strengthens the connection with citizens in the real world as well, not just in the virtual world. After all, although access to the internet is high in our country, there are digitally excluded people who do not enjoy the benefits of the World Wide Web. The aspect of EU legislation is also important. We should develop the tools of direct democracy also in the context of the European Community. It cannot be that the key decisions concerning the Union are made without the direct participation of citizens of Poland or other member states. Although there are various consultations at the EU level, a great deal of good can still be done in this regard. I would like to leave you with the vision of the development of our country, the European Community and cooperation with countries outside the European Union, and encourage you to express your own thoughts on the future of democracy. May our actions contribute to better adaptation of democracy to the realities of the present day and enable us to live in the kind of country we collectively envision. Thank you.